Yes, the very beginning was probably somewhere around 2000, 2001. It took a couple of years to make anything happen, but there was 80 acres of vacant land that SRM purchased from the bank. And we got started. Many different conceptual site plans of how to break up that 80 acres. And then there were a few particular clients that wanted, that thought they might be interested in building a new facility out here. All pretty much light industrial, which was what the target market was and what the land price allowed. Finally, in 2003, Cheeseworks came along. That was the start of it all. The first place to sign a deal out here. It was very cheap, $40 a square foot. It was a warehouse for cheese. And then before that project finished, the parcel next door sold to a company called Allergy Research. Also was very inexpensive, no bells and whistles, very basic building. 2004, I think, was Ederate. Late 2005 was when Pete's happened. And they would always bring coffee. And at Christmas time, they gave every one of us a box that had 6 pounds of various different flavors of coffee. It would come out of the roaster, go into the bags, and when they handed it to us at the meeting, it was still warm. Same way with the bread at Semi-Freddy. Pete's really got a lot more momentum going. Just making that sale at that scale allowed SRM to invest capital into a spec project, which became North Loop Phase 1. When that was done, we did North Loop Phase 2, and years later we did North Loop Phase 3 across the street. Things really began to domino. And then in the middle there, somewhere around 2010, 2012, was the VF campus, which was also a very big deal for SRM in terms of giving them capital investment money for more new projects. This is one of my very favorite projects out here, and they had the inspiration. They were the ones who actually came up with some of the finer details, but they got their own personality into it by participating in some of the design process. McGuire and Hester they were actually established as a company in 1926. So that also speaks to why McGuire and Hester was taking the opportunity to use that aesthetic in the building to represent that. That's almost 100 years ago. In the lobby, there was a bridge that connected the two sides of the building through the lobby. And one of the employees, Brock, he was very big on wanting to have a bridge, that was really a structural bridge. And so that was a lot of fun too. Mostly the structural engineer got to have fun with that, but we got to have some too. They were just really nice people and great to work with. We had a lot of fun working on the project. For Stacy and Whitbeck, they're really very similar kind of construction technologies. They were interested in a more modern and contemporary look as opposed to the WPA 1920s type aesthetic. I remember heard from one company that was putting in a bid. They're looking at the building and they're saying, "That's a tilt? It doesn't look like a tilt." That was a compliment. Those were the days when I was on my knee scooter. So I rolled in the hangar doors at one end of the building, and I could see all the way down to the opposite end, 650 feet long, 120 foot wide clear span, 12 foot deep roof trusses, 54 feet in the air. And I just looked up and I went, what do I do in this space that doesn't screw it up? So it was just kind of awe-inspiring to step into this remarkable space. From a seismic standpoint, we had to give, I think it was a pretty substantial distance between new columns that we were adding to support the second floor and the existing columns. So we had to build a structure within a structure. This is not just a tasting room with a nice bar seating area. They're making their beer, they're bottling it. They're a very different aesthetic to that space. But it was all redwood, old wood. It was not near as much glass, obviously. Admiral has a malting floor that they break to make their malt. A perfect aesthetic for a malting company and a brewery that ended up being the two tenants in that building. It's definitely being used as industrial and retail both nice spaces. It was a very satisfying project to do and work on and see at the end. We started out with 8 buildings. One of the 8 buildings, which was not actually on the street, but hidden behind other buildings, turned out to be too expensive. So I tore it down and expanded the secured parking area. So down to 7 buildings. And then this truck yard, Joe was able to make a deal with the owner of that and trade him land elsewhere to move him off so that he could control this entire block from 18th Street all the way down to 20th. That will soon become an 8th building again, only instead of being a rehab building, it'll be a new building. It's changing a lot right now with a lot of residential development. It's only about a mile from West Oakland BART, and it has a thriving small business community right now. But the definite goal overall for this project is to transform this neighborhood back to what it was earlier in the middle of the 20th century. It's about transitioning a neighborhood in a positive direction and really becoming part of the community. My name is Terri Emery. I've been practicing architecture since November of 1979. 41 of those years have been with Forge, or previous iterations of Forge. So, been in the same place for a long time, but I never got bored. I love the challenge of being presented with a problem where everybody's scratching their heads and tossing out ideas and coming up with the logical solution. Almost without exception, every project has been a great team of people that work together to solve problems and not pointing fingers at the other people on the team when something goes wrong and blaming people, but putting their heads together and finding the good solution. That's probably been the most universal thing I could say about my career. I mean, the style of architecture, the type of tenant, user, end user, there's been a lot of variety. But that one variable of a good, strong team has been nearly 100%.